Acton in Focus is brought to you by Acton Pharmacy. Hey everyone, welcome to Acton in Focus. I am Mark Ducey, your host for this episode. Thanks for joining. Today we have a great guest, John Kerr, the Executive Director for the Middlesex West Chamber of Commerce. John has made it his mission to become involved with nonprofit organizations throughout most of his adult life. Beginning with early work in various nonprofit clubs and organizations, as well as church youth groups as an advisor and leader, he has volunteered over the past 3 decades teaching, mentoring, educating, and helping adults, youth, and those in need. In August 2017, John joined the Middlesex West Chamber of Commerce as Executive Director, a position that combines his 30-plus years of nonprofit administration and small business experience and over 20 years working with youth. John, it's a pleasure to have you as a guest. Thanks for joining me today.
Thank you, Mark. Thanks for having me today.
You bet. I know we've known each other for a few years, and it's great to actually sit here and interview you. I think this is the first time we've done this.
Yeah, actually, you're right. It is. We've been on plenty of adventures together and interview other folks, but first time it's been between us.
Yeah, right.
So that's all right. It's all good.
Okay. All right. Well, let's.
Thank you for that grand introduction. Though you must have found some old information in a book somewhere or something. So
I did my research.
Awesome. So
I know that I know you've been involved with the Middlesex West Chamber of Commerce for a long time, and I'd like to ask you a little bit about how long you've been involved. What are some of the roles you've had with the chamber, and what has been your experience in those roles?
So some of the passages are probably around I want to say 2011. 2012 was when I started to get involved. I was the executive director at Danny's Place Youth Center, Youth Services at that point. And through, really got involved basically through Maura with the Town Rec. She had been influential in that. But that's when I got to know the past director, Sarah Fletcher. Karen Donahue was there at the time as well. And Karen was somebody I'd known from outside of the chamber already anyhow. So it was a familiar face, and just, kind of got involved in all the ways you might think was typical, going to a few events, the networking kind of thing, various banquets and that sort of stuff. And then I just started helping out, and wasn't even really like conscious. They would end up needing something, and because I had a weird schedule, a lot of times I was just available time-wise to be there and show up. And one of the biggest ones where apparently I was some sort of hero, although I don't see it that way, was when they moved the office from the old place over Atlantic Seafood and Grill, I think it is. It was in the back of that building, and they moved it to the current location, which is at 179 Great Road, kind of right in the middle of Acton there. And actually it's in the middle of the chamber footprint, which I can get into in a minute. But helped them move in part because I was available to do so, and also had a big F-350 diesel truck at the time. So loading all those file cabinets and bookshelves and everything else. I spent 3 days doing that with Sarah and Karen. And I remember some other folks. I think Lester had shown up at one point from Ghoul's Clothing, and there were some others. But apparently that was so exciting that they nominated me and presented me actually with the Volunteer of the Year or the Chamber Volunteer of the Year award. And I think that might have been 2014. I want to say it was 2014 for the move in 2013. So, there it is. There I am all of a sudden up in front of 200 some people in a banquet room. And then, of course, I've been involved with the town and the recreation department for a long time. most of that kind of coming out from when I was doing the youth center stuff, and we started doing combined concerts and skate park events and those sorts of things. So Maura was again orchestral and keeping me involved. And when the position for the executive director came up, I was certainly immediately made aware of that by Maura, and just kind of went from there. So that's how I got involved originally.
Cool. So let's dive a little bit into the chamber itself, and what the Chamber of Commerce is like. What is a Chamber of Commerce essentially? Can you talk a little bit about the benefits of being a member of a chamber, specifically the Middlesex West Chamber, and in some of the opportunities that that being a member gives to local businesses?
Sure. It's so first, the chambers of commerce are like business organizations. They're membership driven. So it's not like a government entity or anything like that. A lot of people think that it is, but all of the funding for a chamber will come from membership, special events, event revenue, and sponsorship, basically. What they really are is a kind of a conglomerate of getting businesses together to advocate for themselves, or a lot of resource sharing there, and we've seen that a lot in the past year, to say the least. But it's you have other ones that might sound more familiar. You have retailers associations, you've got business associations, kind of fall into that category, and it's really a chance to give businesses another way to market themselves, especially with each other, but also another outreach way, whether it's through working with nonprofits that we have as members as well, or just getting out to the community at large based on events and just the marketing opportunities the chamber has and can provide. So and then there's a lot of learning resources involved as well. We're often holding, especially nowadays, webinars and seminars. There's a lot of Zoom stuff going on, of course, but even before that, and hopefully getting back to that, we would have lunch and learns where you could learn about any number of aspects, whether it was legal aspects with the PFML, the Paid Family Medical Leave Act that just came on board January 1st. We had a good webinar that was presented by an attorney, or even one that was very successful for us. We had another attorney and a marketing director from a company present about what to do if you get a bad review. When you can guess what kind of pages and apps that was basically geared towards, but that was a big hit because it's like, what are your legal boundaries as far as how you can respond to something? Should you respond to something, and how do you do that? And that was a successful event. And we've had any number of other seminars based on security aspects for technology, what are required of you legally as far as employees, and all sorts of things. So it kind of goes on in that regard. And then in kind of an ongoing aspect, a chamber, one of the things certainly I try to be is there to answer questions, or at least lead businesses, owners, or those involved with the businesses in the right direction to get those answers. And that happens a lot. That's something that I could say a couple of times a day. I'm either getting an email or a phone call about how do I figure this out, especially with this past year having been what it was. I'd say the volume of that is actually higher, as so many have been trying to navigate the PPP and the SBA loans and emergency services and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah, some new aspects of the job that have materialized themselves in the last year.
Yep. And that's part of, it's, what does the chamber do for you? It really became kind of clear and on the front line, so to speak, this past year, because nothing that had ever happened, has happened like this before. So you had a lot of new precedent being set, but the chambers were by default, and not even really realizing it at first, although nobody was surprised, put on, as the immediate liaison between the state and federal government and our local businesses, and even some of our bigger local businesses. We have some of our businesses will have 500 plus employees, but they're not the huge monster ones, and they're still locally based, and the employees are local. The businesses, it's feeding the local economy and all that. But it was just an onslaught that nobody really knew what to do with, and very quickly the chambers and things like the Retailers Association, and any number, a lot of unions and those sorts of things were wrapped up in at the time were weekly or even bi-weekly calls with the heads of state, as I put it. So at a number of times I've been on calls and Zooms with Secretary Mike Keneally, Secretary Acosta, Bob Nelson with the SBA, and then even Lieutenant Governor Polito was in on a number of these. And it was really these brainstorming sessions. And there'd probably be about 100 to 120 of us on these initial calls. Just what do we do about this? And it's kind of where, the whole manufacturing get together, as I call it, for doing the PPP product, the PPP. Oh, here we go. Too many acronyms, right? So PPE production and making the safety equipment. When that was all, a big panic and concern in March and April and into May last year, that was a role that Chambers had, and I went to all of our manufacturers specifically to find out if they could be involved in this. And then there was a lot of connecting. Here's the networking aspect, although this time it was kind of with the state, where you'd have somebody, one of our manufacturers in Carlisle made this little tiny part, and I guess that worked with an overall ventilation system. So all of a sudden these little pieces were coming together from various manufacturers to kind of make a whole product. But certainly in getting the information to our certainly like our sole proprietors and our small local businesses, and getting this PPP and federal loan, this and that to them, that's where we played a big role.
So now, it seems like things are starting to get a little bit better. There's a vaccine now. There's a few vaccines now. I was wondering if you've noticed any, hopeful business trends starting to happen now that the vaccine is being distributed. Could you talk a little bit about that?
I think, I think that the psychology is improving in general. We're in I would consider us in kind of a weird time. I was actually talking to somebody about it this morning, in that, we're in this kind of limbo. So this time of year is normally quiet without a pandemic. After the holiday season and before the summer kind of kicks up, and especially through February, where Valentine's is kind of the only thing happening, and that's a pretty selective market for retailers who's involved with that, and gets any kind of stream from that kind of stuff. CVS with greeting cards, I guess. But this is a tough time anyhow. So having a pandemic on top of it has been an extra challenge, so to speak. But a lot of I'd like to think, and I'm starting to hear, the psychology of people being willing to kind of get back out there. They're kind of looking around, if we get some warm weather, that certainly helps. The restaurants are already touting their patio openings and these sorts of things. Some of them have fire pits that they've kept running all winter long. It's so I've driven by there, I think it was the middle of January, and there were like 5 or 6 people huddling around a fire pit, one of these restaurants. That was Rapscallions, actually. And I think there was another couple underneath the giant heating tube lamp thing they have, those like gas lamps, and there was this couple huddled underneath, So it was like, people are trying. That's
a good investment.
So but so I think a lot of that is where you're going to feel like, okay, it's coming back. The restrictions have been eased a little bit. You can have your restaurant more full as long as you're maintaining the 6 feet aspect and all that. And you can, so it's things like that, and I think the trick is just going to be getting people out to shop. One of the things that has kind of started to happen, and ironically, we had a phone call last week. It was a Zoom. It was either last week or week before, and it was with the Mike Keneally crowd, I put it. So a number of chambers and whatnot, is that people are starting to come back into the state because that restriction has been eased, and are starting to shop more. And places like the Cape certainly need that. They really got slammed hard, just because it's a tourist-centric.
Right, it's all about tourism. Yeah.
So, and then the other thing that would have a big impact is, getting college kids back. Boston has the largest transitory population of any city in the country, if not the world, where you have 200,000 college kids coming in and out of the area in the spring and fall. And with all the schools having been shut down, a lot of them continuing to be, you just had a big impact on businesses in those areas. And I know Amherst has really gotten nailed because that's pretty much all they are, is a college town. And, so I feel fortunate in the sense that we are where we are, where we have, residents that live here and stay here kind of thing. And they've been able to support, the local economy and whatnot. I think a lot of businesses feel that they are over probably the worst of the hurdle. On the other side of that is you still have a lot of businesses that are definitely struggling. They've exhausted their PPP loans and their other, grants and loans they've been able to get. And, things haven't completely opened up and people aren't just running outside and spending money like they used to, kind of thing. So it is still a concern, and it speaks to how we still need to, support our local area.
Yeah, absolutely. And one of the biggest industries that has been hurting has been the restaurant industry. I know the chamber for the past 5-6 years has put on this great event called the Taste of Middlesex, where you get a whole bunch of local restaurants all together in one place, and people get to come in and try different items from their menus. And it's a big boon to them, because people who may not have ever been to these restaurants were able to go here and check them out and maybe find a new favorite restaurant. And so with that was one thing that we didn't get to really experience last year was that great event. And now this year you're doing something a little bit different with the Taste of Middlesex. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Sure thing. Yeah. So this year, and obviously I think everybody's aware of why we couldn't do the taste event last year.
Yes.
And going forward this year, we don't expect to have one. Usually that would be in November. We're not expecting to have a live taste event. There's a lot of aspects about whether there'll still be restrictions. There's aspects about people's comfort level with having 1,000 people crammed into the same room, an expo room. But we just there's still some unpredictability in those kind of aspects. And then the restaurants have enough on their plate, and yes, the pun is fully intended, but enough on their plate with figuring out just their own revenue and everything else, and asking them to show up to an event and spend upwards of $800 to have staffing there, food there, transportation, moving food, so they aren't necessarily shedding a huge tear for the event not happening, so to speak, because they've just got so much else to deal with. So what we're trying to do is this virtual taste card, which is a lot like a Boosters Club card you might get from a high school. This concept is pretty much the same. So you buy a card, and you can do that through Eventbrite, and I think it's just Taste of Middlesex virtual style, or the chamber website, and I'll give the address for that later in the program. But you can get a card, and it gets you discounts at any number of places. And importantly, it's not just restaurants anymore. We have about 10 restaurants that are currently on there. We have 10 other businesses. Actually, I think we might have to be 11. So I think we have 21 right now, and hoping that more will come on board as this progresses. But it's everything from, Ghoul's Clothing is offering a discount on clothes and sale items. We have cleaning services that are offering discounts. There's an auto body shop on there that's offering a discount. And then, of course, multiple restaurants as well that are doing 10% off your final bill, if not more. There's a couple on there. I think Mr. Max is doing like 15% off. And if you haven't been to Mr. Max, it's all mac and cheese with fun stuff on it, so it's yummy. But any number of restaurants participating, and as far as businesses, they don't have to be a chamber member to participate in this. So any number of them are not chamber members, but the idea is it's about supporting and getting people out to the community. So it's a fundraiser for the chamber in the sense that when you buy the card, the funds do go to the chamber for us to help continue our business advocacy and supporting local businesses. But it also is, hopefully a motivator during, especially this quieter time, to get people to say, hey, I can get, it's going to cost me $100 for the two of us to go out for dinner or even do the takeout. I can get $10 off if I use this card. And there's some people who do a lot of takeout food or go into restaurants, and that can add up pretty quickly as far as the discount. Or, if you're getting your car fixed, getting 10% off or whatever it is. I have to look specifically, but that could be worthwhile just in its own right. So that's the idea, is to get people motivated to go to places, to use the services, get to the clothing store and get some discount on some items. But the idea is getting to the store and spending some money at the store. And that's how it comes full circle in supporting the local businesses.
And this isn't just like the Taste of Middlesex in the past was like a one-day event. This isn't
Correct.
just a one-day event. This is you get a card and you can use it over how like, is there a expiration date for this?
Currently it's going through June 1st. However, we're making motion, with the committee and then talking to a couple of the vendors, the idea of just extending this to the end of the year. I'm not kind of like a booster club card. And then whether it would become an annual thing or not is, certainly, up for discussion in the mix of things. But, right now the idea was, get it through a June 1st at least because of the downtime that this kind of the time of season, warrants. But I'm hoping it'll continue through the end of the year. And we've kind of set it up, a vendor, a participant, whatever, could come on board and do their percentage off, starting now if they wanted to. And then if somebody needed to leave, let's say you hit your seasonal capacity kind of thing and you couldn't be a vendor or participant anymore, and you could drop out of it. So we've got that protection in there for, the businesses that are involved, giving them a little bit of leeway on that. And the other side of that, is we're definitely working to maintain a critical mass so that if you buy the card, there's a number of places to utilize it and go to. And you can use, it doesn't have to, it's if you're sitting down at the restaurant or if you're walking into the clothing store kind of thing. It could also be if you're doing the takeout, if you're calling ahead, you just have to have the card in hand, or even just curbside pickup. The only thing it doesn't cover, it's not, you can't use it with DoorDash or Uber Eats or any number of these other ones, because they're already hitting restaurants or whoever it is, mostly restaurants, but they're already hitting the restaurants for an 18% charge on that, on top of charging you. So it's a great service in that it's convenient and provides that convenience and the safety aspect of not going out if that's what you need. But it's, the restaurants are paying for it to exist. So you need to remember that as a consumer as well, that it's not free on their end. It's those companies figure out how to make their revenue stream.
And so for those interested, mwcoc.com is the website, and you can go there and get all the information you need. You can get, you can purchase your taste card there. I'm guessing that's correct.
Yes. Oh yeah. Yep. Yeah. There's a, if you get to the main page, there's a splash that goes across where you click on that, it takes you to the taste, kind of our event page. The other is, that's mwcoc.com. You're right. And then eventbrite.com is another way to get the cards. And I think it's just Taste of Middlesex virtual style. There's Facebook posts going out on events and stuff that'll lead you in the right direction. The other one is the Acton Restaurant Week website as well. We have a page on there dedicated to the taste event. That one's a little more fun because the web engine there gives me a chance to put up slideshows and have all the logos up and everything else. Some of the other ones, like Eventbrite and our own chamber website, are a bit limited in how much graphics you can put up there and whatnot. So, but there's, the card actually has a QR code on the back of it. So at any given time, if you scan the code with your cell phone or whatever else you'd want to use, it'll take you to the kind of the active dynamic page. So you can always see who's offering what. It gives you a listing of all the restaurants and the massage places and retail stores. Kitchen Outfitters is another retail on there, and some of the massage places. And it gives you, who they are, what they're doing, their logos on there, and the links to their pages and whatnot as well. So.
And I'm sure that, if you go to, mwcoc.com, businesses can also get more information about the chamber itself and, what you offer and how the chamber can help them.
Yep. Exactly.
Excellent.
So you go there and it's got the membership application. There's the business directory as well, which I should point out, especially if you want to support local. Right on the front page of the Chamber's website on the right side, there's a thing that says business directory. You click that and it has everybody as a member listed for all sorts of different services. So that could be, if you're looking for a dentist, if you're looking for somebody to design a new room in your house, if you're looking for tech security. We kind of cover everything. There's tons of attorneys and CPAs and the real estate agents as well. So it's covered. Everything's covered. and if you need marketing services, I could just go on, but there's a business directory there, come check it out. It at least gives you contacts and phone numbers and websites and all that of these companies. And they could certainly use the support. So
absolutely. Yeah. Support local, support local.
yes.
Great. Is there any like final thoughts you'd like to say? Any, other upcoming events you'd like to mention before we sign out here?
Yeah, no, I think that's pretty much it. We do have we're going to actually be trying our first hybrid event at the end of April. It's April 27th, which is a Tuesday. It's going to be our first attempt since the closures last year of a live after hours networking event. And we are also doing a Zoom aspect to it. So you can sign up for either way, whatever's more comfortable for people. And we're probably going to, put up a screen and have, a bunch of heads on a screen looking at us. Well, I'll be at the fire pit, I think. But we've heard of, just a couple of places have tried doing these and they've worked pretty well. And it's a way to get interaction and, still get the networking, even if you aren't able to be there. And that might be something going forward. It's still kind of being reinvented and figured out as we move forward, and things like Zoom and, Google Meets and Microsoft Team and all that have really been forced into our forefront, as well as force their own technology to catch up extremely quickly and provide the opportunity to get people together, and at least be able to see each other fashion and more than one-on-one kind of thing. So we don't know what kind of future opportunities that's going to provide. It could be we have business seminars and education aspects where you can Zoom into it if you can't make it live. So I can see that as kind of something that will just continue on. You can always stick a computer to the back of the camera looking at, whoever's presenting. So.
Right. Excellent. Well, John, thanks so much for joining me today. I do want to just again, please, those watching, remember to support your local chamber, support your local businesses, because by doing that, you're supporting your community. It's very important. And if you have any questions, to ask John, I'm sure that all the, your contact information could be found at mwcoc.com, and you're okay with people contacting you with questions?
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Thanks to you again. And for the viewers, thank you for watching. If you have any stories that you'd like to share, you can contact us at infocus@actontv.org. Again, that's infocus@actontv.org. And with that, John, again, thanks so much. And it's been a pleasure.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Take care.
All right. Take care, everybody.